bit was really weird because you've got some people, everybody was investing based upon their previous experience. That's cool, that's fair enough, it's what I do in their situation. But if you had somebody who'd made their money out of running a set of retail stores, well, they'd evaluate everything based upon the retail principles that they knew. If you had somebody that made all their money working in investment banking, they'd look at it from that perspective. If it was somebody who made all their money in a dot-com startup in like the late 90s or whatever, they'd invest it from that, they'd look at it from that point of view. And so it became really weird, and you never knew before going to talk to these guys. You could do as much research as you wanted, but you never really knew how they were going to evaluate it, or what principles, or what things they were going to value most. So that was always quite an interesting experience. And we did actually raise probably just under half our money through the business networks. So loads of people said, don't go and bother with them, it will never work. They were the hardest money to raise, and in fact sometimes I actually think, looking back, that the business networks scared the investors more and actually didn't help that much, and that was a bit of a pain. But yeah, they were quite, we raised money from there, so I have to give it a big tick in the box. Then banks, oh yes, I was really looking forward to this one. So it got to, end of November last year, and we knew we were, we didn't have long, we had to get some money and find some way of doing it. So I thought, well, everybody keeps saying these banks are meant to be supporting small businesses, I'll go and ask them. So off I trotted with probably the 75th iteration of my business plan. I went and saw the bank and the guy that was there, after standing me up 3 times as well, so I wasn't probably feeling best chuffed at that particular point, but I got to see him. And he sat down, he looked at it and he said, well, it's quite risky. Like, yeah, it's a startup. How much are you looking for? I said, well, how about £20,000, £25,000? We want to go and get funding. We just need to get ourselves to this point. I've got a whole bunch of people who are supposedly interested. He had no idea whether I was making it up or not. As it was, I wasn't making it up. And he said, well, I'm not sure we could do that. But I tell you what, if you get sort of the funding for, say, between, say, £250,000 and 400,000, we could do the loan for 25,000 for you. Yeah, great, mate. As if I'm going to need it at that particular point. I'm going to have 250 to 400,000 sat in the bank. I'm not going to need your one loan. And he sat there with a really sort of straight face saying it. And that morning, I've got a little bit older and moved on from my Radio 1 days in the morning. I now listen to Radio 4, listen to the Today programme. And the head of PR at RBS, which was the bank that I went to see, was on there saying how much they were supporting small businesses, how much they just put that in. So I said to him, I was listening to the Radio 4 Today programme, and your head of PR was on there telling me how much you're supporting small businesses, wanted to fund the entrepreneurial spirit in Britain and really support the economy, and you're just proving the opposite. He went, yeah, that's the PR for you, eh? So, and then the last one, VCs. Now, to be honest, we very much felt that we were probably too small, didn't have enough to prove at that point. I would love to have gone walking into VCs, and indeed I'll get onto the idea of valuations in a minute, but when I was at Nike and Reuters, we did investments in various companies. Yeah, 25 million, that's cool, don't worry about it, we'll invest money in there. I did the acquisition for Umbro by Nike, did a lot of the UK end of that. That was a big number, so I was sat there thinking, yeah, that's great, we'll go straight into the VCs, we'll get a really big round of funding, it'll be really, really cool. Realised we weren't really quite in that realm at that point. What I want to see us do now is get enough runs on the board, to use sporting analogies, because we do quite a lot, is get enough runs on the board that we can actually prove something to the VCs and really start to have some serious conversations with those guys. So, next slide. Okay, I called this the funding game, and the amount of conversations that we come out of, my God, it was a game. That was it. It absolutely was a game, and it had to be played by the rules of whoever you happened to be talking to. You just had to play the game to get through it. And I reckon in total we probably did about 6 months or so taking it. So about 6 months of me being up at night writing long presentations, going to meetings with people. At the same time, we're trying to build a site, we're trying to get traffic to it, we're trying to bring people into the team who are going to be really fantastic and help us do more. We're trying to look at, wow, that's a really cool way, and we're doing this in a really new way. but how do we build the really new way of doing it and design the really new way of doing it if actually most of my time I'm spent kissing ass to people over here who've got some money? It's a real problem. And so that 6 months took up a lot of time. And would I do it again? Yes, because we had to. But if we didn't have to, we probably could be business-wise maybe another month in total further on than we are now. The I can help you. So sorry to the advisors, consultants, people. The amount of people who say, oh yeah, I can introduce you to the right person, this is my thing. I can look at these numbers for you, and I can change it, we can make it into really investor-ready presentation. Yeah, I've written in the presentations, I know how to do PowerPoint. I know how to put an Excel model together, and everybody came and I could do it on a day rate of this, or a percentage of equity, or percentage of what's raised. Biggest advice from me, tell them to get lost. There was no value add at all. And my God, it was tempting. When you were sat there thinking, well, if this guy can get me into this money or whatever, it was so tempting. And we saw a fair few. I guess, in a sense, we didn't tell the business angel groups to get lost, because actually we went and presented it to them, and we paid to do that. And I'm glad just about that we did, because we raised the money through it, and we got some great experience and more confidence as well for them to take into other conversations. I think that was one of the big things, that we got confidence because loads of people were really positive about what we talked with in those business angels bits, that we could take it to other people and think, yeah, we're onto something, this is working, let's be more confident, people are liking this idea. So the valuation, oh dear. So we started off going, yeah, we've got a huge valuation and we'll give you 5% and you can put in loads of money and all this sort of stuff. And didn't quite work. Rose had a little bit of a chat with me at one point. She said, Charlie, just be a little bit more realistic about what you're asking for. So we did, and then it had to be a little bit more realistic after that as well. But each time what we did was that we were always very conscious that we didn't want to give away the farm. We wanted to keep as much equity as we could, but we wanted to get enough that could prove enough to get us to the next stage. And that became the goal. How much do we need to get in order to get us to the next stage that can take us on the next bit of funding? And that became, what are we trying to prove, what do we need to focus on as a business, and what do we need to do as a result? And the valuation became a constant discussion. And by about Christmas, we pretty well realised what our ballpark was and what we could get people involved, interested in. Different investors. As I said, we spoke to so many different investors, different types of investors, with totally different criteria, totally different personalities, what they wanted, what they expected, and it was really quite amazing. And it was a huge learning curve for me, and it was actually something that I'm really pleased that I went through and did. We talked to one guy who was absolutely looking at us as a retail entity. No, we don't want to be classed as a retailer. That's not what we are. Don't compare us with Sports Direct, JJB, or any of those people. But that's what he knew, and that's exactly what he wanted to evaluate us on. And he actually made us a pretty good offer to get involved, and we ended up saying no, thank you, because actually we felt that his criteria of the way that he was viewing the business would not be the best for us going forward, because we didn't want to actually run that type of business. If I'd wanted to run a retailer, I would have opened a warehouse somewhere and we would have been doing that. So the big thing with that, it's totally in the eye of the beholder, I think, for them. And it is a merry-go-round. You're going round and round in circles, and once you got onto the funding bit, we'll be doing it again and again and again.